Hey everyone, welcome to Reddit Readout. Today we are checking out True Off My Chest. Story 1. I hate shopping for clothes when I hate how I look. It doesn't help that the plus-size models have flat stomachs and perfect legs, they're just a little cavia in their boobs and waist. Story 2. High school sweetheart is divorcing me, all love is just evaporated. We got together in 2016, married in 2020, moved in together July 2021. All was seeming pretty good, but after a while it was like we were suffocating one another, the passion and emotion drained from our love, and love just became a fact of life, like air being clear or the sky being blue, completely uninteresting. Her dad died in January, we went to Hungary to see the funeral, but the family tried to get my, do I say ex-wife now? Wife at the time anyway, tried getting her to arrange everything. I saw the man's corpse, it hadn't been done up or anything because we weren't actually there legally. After we got back from Hungary for the next 3 weeks she never really spoke to me, there was a look of hatred in her eyes whenever we made eye contact. And in March she moved out under the guise of looking after her mum's house while her mum was in Hungary. She ended up staying there indefinitely and not returning, as a result I could no longer afford the place and had to move back in with my parents. She broke up with me very cattily over the phone, saying quite chirpily, "Yeah, it's not working out." After a few weeks it seemed like we were on the rise, we were no longer planning a divorce, but instead planning a future. The relationship had turned into this quasi-long-distance relationship. Even though we only lived 7 miles apart, we saw each other once every 2 weeks. Between April and May she seemed really invested in us. The look of hatred in her eyes was replaced by the original gaze of love she had when we first got together. We went out around the center of town and enjoyed different museums and restaurants, like we were dating for the first time almost. We were both saving money for a deposit on a house, but the initial optimism I had, whilst it wasn't burning out, I was realizing just how long this was going to take, and I had worries about the realistic feasibility of this relationship in the meanwhile. We met about a week ago, and I felt really cold. She asked me what was up and I told her. She really didn't like it, acting as if this stuff had all been resolved. And making me feel guilty for my own concerns. I kept bringing up couples therapy, which she wasn't at all interested in, calling it pointless. I asked her if she could take some of the stuff that's clogging my room at my parents' house up. Her computer, maybe 1 or 2 of the 14 bags of stuff she left behind. She started crying in frustration whilst ordering the cab because the app was being a pain. Little did I realize at the time that was the last ounce of her energy for this relationship being released. I waved goodbye to her. And in the morning I woke up to a text saying, "I'm done with you, please stop texting me." That's how 7 years of love evaporates. Story 3. I'm dying and my parents don't care. Update 3. I had a full-spectrum blood test this morning and my doctor put me on some strong antibiotics for the time being, and I haven't had any more bloody vomit so far. Still feel horrible but hoping the antibiotics help. My blood test results should be back sometime mid-next week. Until then I am not going to school nor work to hopefully give my body time to heal with little stress. My aunt is attempting to talk my parents into letting me move in with her once I am better. I don't think it will be that difficult to convince them, in all honesty. If they decline, my aunt is going to take them to court for custody, as we have plenty of evidence of medical neglect, physical and mental abuse and child endangerment. Thank you for all of the support so far. To all of those who don't believe me, I can't make you believe me, but rather than sending me threatening messages, just ignore my posts. Story 4. If it weren't for my family, I'd probably just KMS. At some point. What is there to live for? 8 hours a day doing shit I don't care about, then spend the rest of my night alone, repeat. Can't connect with anyone anymore either, so. What stops me is my family. I don't ever want to do something like that to them. But if they weren't around, yet I probably would find a way to be gone. Story 5. I despise my dad. I recently graduated from college and was going to the graduation ceremony. I sent tickets to my parents and friends, my dad decides he isn't going to go due to the ceremony being at 9 a.m. So there's a ticket wasted. Few days later my half-brother had his high school graduation in the afternoon. My dad went to that graduation ceremony. Then again, I shouldn't be surprised, I'm not his favorite kid, he clearly prefers paying child support for the 5 other kids that barely ever speak to him without asking for a favor. Story 6. 2 days ago my wife cheated on me. I wanted to write this sooner than I expected, but only got up the courage now. I, 30, am, married my wife, 29, f, about 5 years ago. I always saw her as a caring, loving person who was always concerned about me, but when everything happened, she showed herself to be a completely different person. I don't know if she pretended to be that way because of our marriage. After 1 year of marriage, we had a daughter, 4, f. She is absolutely the love of my life, I adore her. My wife and I have always loved children, so having a daughter was like a blessing to our newly formed family. Fast forward to the future, the pandemic caused me to lose my job. My wife continued to work in an office while I did jobs anywhere possible, as my wife and I fought regularly because of this. One of these fights led to her slapping me in front of our daughter, which probably made her uncomfortable, but she didn't understand about these things, so I guess she must not even remember it. My wife always reminded me that I didn't have a job. Marriage was getting worse and worse. In a brief context, I didn't finish high school. This, at least in my country, makes it very difficult for me to find a stable job. I had tried to get a job in several places but it never worked out. So 2 days ago, I came home early after helping to make some deliveries for extra money. I entered the house, only to see a scene that simply never left my mind. My wife was there, in the kitchen, having sex with a guy from her office. She saw me staring at the scene, completely unresponsive. She screamed in horror at the sight of me. I just wanted to walk over there and kill that guy, but I somehow managed to keep calm. I left the house, with my wife's car keys in my hand, since I don't have a car and needed to pick up my daughter from school. She came out of the house a few minutes later, with messy hair, tired and with red cheeks. She was probably having sex with that guy all afternoon. She looked at me, crying, telling me that she loved me and that she was sorry. I didn't know what to say. The only thing I could ask her was, "How long have you been doing this?" Which she replied, "Please, this was the first time." I didn't know what I was thinking. It was a lie. I wanted to believe her but I couldn't. I got into the car without saying another word, driving to my daughter's school and picking her up. I needed to relax, so I just drove to some fast food place and bought us snacks. For a few seconds, while I was eating with my daughter, I forgot what had happened. After spending an hour with my daughter, my wife texted me, saying that she loved me and was very sorry for what she had done, and that she was at a friend's house in the office so that she could relax. I didn't answer anything. I drove home, only to find that guy sitting on the sidewalk, looking down. I got out of the car and put my daughter to sleep in our former house, then got out of it. I just watched him turn around, crying, saying that he didn't know she was married. I asked him to explain and he said that she basically lied to him. He told me that she said that she was single, and that her ex-husband lived in another state, and her daughter lived with her. He told me they never had sex in the bedroom, and that she always wanted this on the living room or the kitchen. That is why they never had sex there, since that is the only place where there were pictures of me and her together, and if he found out, he would probably freak out and stop to hook up with her. I asked him the same question I asked to my wife, "How long have you been doing this?" and he answered that they had been having this affair for 3 months. I didn't know what to say. I stopped feeling my body completely. I've never been so devastated in my entire life. I told him to go home, but he told me that he didn't have a car and that my wife brought him to my former house, and she was the one who drove him home. I felt a little remorse from him. Maybe he was telling the truth, maybe he was truly sorry. I gave him a ride to his house, but we didn't talk the whole way. When we got there, I asked him if he had anyone, if he was in a relationship. He replied that he had a girlfriend. I told him to tell her everything that happened, to protect him, her, and their relationship. I said that she would probably freak out, but remembered him that he simply wouldn't be able to continue a relationship knowing that he cheated on his girlfriend. I said that, in the end, it was his decision to tell her or not. He just agreed and got out of the car. After that, I came home to keep my daughter company. I have never been so devastated and destroyed in my entire life, and I have never cried as much as I have in the last 2 days. Now I can't think of anything else but protecting my daughter. I don't want to see that woman again in my entire life, and I hope to get a lawyer as soon as possible so that I can get a divorce. I will try to post updates whenever I can. And thank you for reading. I needed to get this off my chest and didn't want to tell my brother, who is the only person in the family that lives in my state. Also, sorry for any mistakes. I am not an English native speaker, so it is very difficult for me to write anything in this language, but I tried my best. Thanks. Edit. Since there's a bit of people confused, I did not let my daughter alone at home when I arrived the guy to his house. I called my brother to keep an eye on her. I just felt bad for the guy, maybe he was sorry, I dunno. Edit 2. So, yeah, I felt like I needed to do this edit because there are many people talking about the fact that I drove the guy to his home. I felt bad for him, deep in my heart I felt truly sorry for him, so I just felt I needed to do this. And yet, looking back, it was a parenting neglect, even if my brother was taking care of her. I shouldn't have done this, and this will probably have a lot of effect on the divorce case. Thanks for all the... Story 7. I think I cheated on my boyfriend. I, 22F, think I may have cheated on my boyfriend, 23M. My boyfriend, Henry, not his real name, and I have been together for 4 years. I was 18 when we started and I really fell deep for him. He was sweet, loving, and although a little selfish, he made me feel loved and cared for. During quarantine he let me live in his house, and he's helped me a lot when moving on my own. But we had problems, especially in bed. Henry has only been with 3 women in his life, and I was the 3rd. He's always been selfish, and yes, we talked about it a lot. He wouldn't go down on me, for some time he wouldn't use his hands either. He started doing it not long ago, but he hurts me every time, and even when I explained how to do it, he kept doing it the old way, so I would just tell him not to do it. I would do everything so it was over as soon as possible. It also didn't help that he was just so insisting. I have 2 jobs and having to maintain a house. I am tired, I don't want to sleep with him because I don't enjoy it. For me, sex with him became another chore, so I would put it aside as much as I could. Around 8 months ago, Henry proposed the idea of an open relationship. I accepted, since for me sex and love are not the same. I can enjoy sex without love, and so could he. He almost slept with 2 other girls, and I would occasionally kiss one. I'm bisexual, and he was fine with it. Until last Saturday night. We went to a big party. All night, he was with his friends, and I made some new myself. At one point, I was drunk and horny, and I saw this one man. He approached me, we talked, we kissed, and then we had sex in the bathroom. He made me feel amazing. Right after kissing him, I met Henry alone. I told him about it and he said it was fine for him, even if we slept together. When I met the other guy again, that was when he had sex. Right as I left the bathroom, Henry took me aside and told me how bad he felt about it. He said that we agreed that if we didn't have sex in a while, I would go to him instead of someone else, and that we didn't have sex in 2 weeks, so I had to make it Henry instead of with someone else. After that he left with my only ride home, and I was left there alone. I drank more as I asked some of my new friends about it, and they all told me that he agreed to it, so he has to deal with it. The other guy took me home, I didn't know what else to do. He kissed my forehead and made me feel some type of intimacy I didn't feel for so long. I always have to initiate hugs and, non-sexual, kisses with Henry. I am the one who plays with his hair, who cuddles. Henry says that he's just not that type of person and I get it, but sometimes I wish he was. I slept with him, we didn't have sex, but we cuddled and he made me feel loved. He held my hand as he slept, he played with my hair and kissed me on the forehead and on the cheeks. The next morning I told Henry because I felt that he had to know. He came after the other left and we talked. I spent the day crying as he repeated that I broke our deal, and as I felt like shit because I did. He left and came back at night. He kept saying that he felt like shit and that this destroyed the life that he was building. I just kept saying that I am sorry as I cried, I didn't know what else to do. He told me to mend it, but I don't know how. He confessed that he might been too pushy about sex, and I couldn't stop but crying, now in anger. I spent 4 years of my life thinking that there was something wrong with me for not wanting to have sex with him. I spent days forcing myself to do it just to make him happy, I endured pain and he even made me bleed once. During all this time he would get mad from time to time because I didn't satisfy him, and sometimes he even confessed that he came to my home in hopes of sleeping together. Last night he asked me to sleep at my place. He told me that I am his safe space and that he would rather be with me during these times than alone at home. I agreed because I just want him to be okay, and I don't think I have the right to be selfish. He made me dinner for the first time in 4 years and hugged me first when we slept. This morning, after I woke up at 6 a.m. to go to one of my jobs, he told me that I cheated on him. That it's true that we had an open relationship, but I cheated on him. Right now I am on my way to my job, holding my tears on the train. I don't know how to feel. I feel like shit for what I did and I don't know. I don't know if I want to leave him, but I don't know if I should keep this relationship. I love him so much, but I cannot deal with this right now. Cheating for me is a deal breaker and I don't know what to do. I am not looking for advice or for compassion. I just wanted to tell someone. I don't have friends, all of my current friends were his friends first and I don't want to tell them. I don't know if he did, but I will not tell anyone. I am okay with them hating me, I deserve it. My roommate told me that that's not cheating. She says that I asked him, we had an open relationship, I had all of his permission to do so, and that he just got jealous and insecure after that. He even confessed that he can sleep with one girl and forget about her, but he cannot deal with the idea of me doing so. I have to figure this on my own, but right now I am a mess. That's all for today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.